Imagine you lost someone you loved years ago. Standing at the grave, a voice whispers to you, they are in a good place, be at peace. You will meet again. That thought let you breathe in that moment. It kept you going. Now let me ask you this, where did that voice come from? From God? Or from a mind trying to cope with grief, telling itself the most beautiful story it could? Sigmund Freud asked this question in 1927. And the answer is still debated today, because it is both deeply unsettling and remarkably convincing. Today we are not just asking, is religion an illusion? We are going to talk about how this illusion works, why it is so powerful, and why billions of people cannot distinguish it from reality. If this topic makes you uncomfortable, good. Because to understand Freud, you first need to be uncomfortable. When Freud said religion is an illusion, most people misread him. Freud is saying religion is a lie, they said. Of course not. That is both an oversimplification of Freud and a failure to grasp his far more dangerous real thesis. Freud's definition of illusion is constructed with surgical precision. An illusion is defined not by its truth or falsity, but by its source. If a belief is driven primarily by human desire, not by evidence, not by fear, not by observation, but by pure wanting, that belief is an illusion. Freud illustrates this: a medieval peasant believing he will find buried treasure in his own field holds an illusion. Because that belief is not grounded in evidence, it is grounded in the desire to be wealthy. Could the treasure actually be there? Theoretically, yes. But the belief exists not for that reason, it exists for the desire. We create it. We want it. It exists because we wish it into being. Applied to religious belief, what does this mean? Simply this: before asking whether God exists, we must ask why that belief exists at all. And Freud's answer is deeply uncomfortable. Religion was born from humanity's most fundamental and primitive fears. The fear of death. The fear of helplessness. The fear of meaninglessness. These fears are so unbearable that the mind generates a shield against them. That shield has a name: God. Let me ask you now, have you ever noticed which of your beliefs are based on evidence, and which exist simply because you want them to be true? That is a very hard question. But it is exactly where the door to Freud's thesis opens. Freud's labeling of religion as illusion is no accident, it is the inevitable conclusion of his broader theory of the human mind. According to Freud, the human mind did not evolve to accept reality as it is, but to make reality bearable. The unconscious mechanisms, projection, sublimation, denial, displacement, all serve the same purpose: to transform, soften, or entirely conceal painful reality. Much like belief does. Religion is the largest and most collective product of these mechanisms. In an individual neurosis, the patient suppresses personal fears through personal symptoms. In religion, an entire society suppresses its existential fears through a shared belief system. Freud calls this the product of collective neurosis. A harsh phrase. But for Freud, choosing politeness over truth is an act of intellectual dishonesty. The anatomy of the illusion has 3 layers. The first layer, helplessness. Human beings are profoundly helpless, both before nature and within society. Earthquakes, illness, war, death, none of these are within your power to control. This helplessness generates an unbearable anxiety. The second layer, desire. Against this anxiety, the mind produces a wish. There must be a force that sees this helplessness, understands it, and ultimately corrects it. Justice is desired. Meaning is desired. Immortality is desired. The third layer, projection. This desire is externalized and attached to an object. The concept of God is the product of this projection. According to Freud, God is nothing more than humanity's own desires projected onto the sky. And here is the most critical point: this illusion is not a conscious choice. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "Let me deceive myself today." The mechanism operates in the unconscious. That is why it is so powerful. That is why it is so resistant. Freud did not stop there. He dug even deeper into the psychological root of the illusion, and what he found is striking: the image of God is the universal projection of repressed longing for the Father. For a child, the Father is both omnipotent and protective. The child needs the Father, fears the Father, and craves the Father's protection. This relationship leaves the earliest and deepest impressions on the mind. Then the child grows up. They see that the Father is not actually all-powerful. They learn that the Father will die too. And that first childhood sense of security collapses. But the mind refuses to accept this collapse. The solution? To magnify that original Father image, to make it eternal, to carry it up into the sky. An all-knowing, all-powerful Father who judges everything with perfect justice. The image of God at the center of all religions is, according to Freud, exactly that. When you hear this, perhaps something inside you pushed back. No, my faith is not that simple, not that primitive, you said. And that objection is entirely understandable. But Freud's answer is ready: the fact that the mechanism operates unconsciously does not make it primitive. On the contrary, that is precisely why it is so sophisticated and so convincing. For a deception to work well, the person being deceived must have no awareness of it. Let me pause here for a moment. What is it that unsettled you most at this point? If you think Freud's claim is wrong, is that intuition or argument? Seeing the difference between the two is essential to reaching the core of this debate. And everything begins right here. If religion is truly an illusion, why is it so enduring? Why, in an age of reason and science, do billions of people still maintain this illusion? Freud did not leave this question unanswered either. The power of the illusion comes from the functional satisfaction it provides. And that satisfaction is very real, very deep. Freud acknowledges this: religion works. But what does it work for? It manages the anxiety of death. It says this life is not all there is. It fills the void of meaning. It says everything happens for a reason. It provides a moral framework. It says good people are rewarded, bad people are punished. It builds community. It says you are not alone, we are a family. And it consoles. Now consider this: every one of these needs is a real need. The need for meaning is real. The fear of death is real. The longing for justice is real. What Freud is saying is this: these needs are real, but the answer given to them, religion, is not real, it is an illusion. Because we want it to be. Like a placebo applied to a genuine pain. A placebo can work. But its being a placebo does not change the truth. And here is the illusion's most clever self-defense mechanism: questioning is made to feel dangerous. Doubt is a sin, they say. Do not weaken your faith, they say. Dogma is pushed to the foreground. According to Freud, this is the illusion's self-preservation reflex. Because an illusion that is questioned begins to unravel. In 1927, Freud predicted, as humanity matures, as science advances, as individuals become psychologically healthier, religion will recede. The illusion will dissolve in the light of reality. Nearly 100 years have passed. What actually happened? In Western Europe, secularization did indeed advance. But on a global scale, religion is not retreating, it is growing. Evangelism is exploding in America. Religious movements are gaining strength across the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. Freud's prediction remained regional, not universal. Does this refute Freud? No, but it significantly limits his thesis. It reveals that knowledge alone is not enough to dissolve the illusion. Because the needs the illusion fulfills cannot be met by science at a certain point. Science can tell you the age of the universe. But it cannot answer why do I exist? And as long as that gap remains, the illusion will always have ground to stand on. Where Freud genuinely went wrong is this: he underestimated the function of the illusion. the fact that something is an illusion does not make it non-functional. In fact, sometimes the illusion works better than reality. Let me tell you one last thing. After Freud finished this book, one of his close friends wrote to him, "What about you? You will die too. You face meaninglessness too. What is your illusion?" Freud's answer was science. Reason. Enduring reality. But let us also add this: Freud spent the final years of his life in agony from jaw cancer. He was forced to flee Nazi persecution. He lost one of his daughters to a concentration camp. And in 1939, in a world without illusions, he asked for morphine and died. Without illusion, what was left to endure those sufferings? Perhaps Freud was right, religion is an illusion. But perhaps the real question is this: can one live without illusion? Write your answer in the comments. There is no answer here, only the question. And that question is Freud's greatest legacy.